and answer option that you can click on to type in a question. You can send questions in through the chat option, or you can choose to raise your hand and click on the hand icon, and Sophia, who is controlling our Zoom meeting, she can unmute you and you can ask any questions directly that way. So we have Giovanni Cavaletto's our Vice President of Sourcing. He's going to go ahead and give our avocado market update today. So we can go ahead and begin with today's meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that introduction, Keith, and thank you everybody for logging in. We've been doing this now for right at about a 1 year mark with this social isolation. Hopefully, as the vaccines continue to be distributed, we can get back to normal. But I think this might be one of the things that we continue. It seems to have worked well. It's a good way to distribute information quickly to a wider audience than driving around with individual field men doing one-on-one tailgate meetings. So I think that this will be a part of our communication arsenal going forward, in addition to getting back to doing the tailgate farm gate meetings. So let's get started. Let's talk about where we're at with California today. We are about 12% complete with the harvest. We've got about 33 million pounds in the barn year to date out of a crop estimate of about 280. Now that crop estimate is down from about an original estimate of about 315. We're all familiar with the reasons why it's down from the heat wave last fall to the very, very, very persistent winds that we've been getting all winter long, and now, of course, into the spring. I'm looking outside my office here in Oxnard today, and the wind is howling as hard as it has been. This has been the windiest winter that I can remember, just in several days per week, all winter long. Something remarkable about this year's harvest is, so we're already at the end of March, and we're only 12% done. So this is month 5 of the fiscal year, and we're 12% done with the harvest. So that's a later start than normal, especially considering what's been going on with the pricing the last few weeks. So it was completely understandable that there be little to no harvesting November, December, January. That's been par for the course for California for a number of years, as Mexico generally has the winter market somewhat depressed, and then California can get started by the middle of February, 1st of March with our crop as the weather starts to improve and demand starts to improve. But to be at the end of March with this little fruit in the barn is, I think it's just really indicative of the size issue. Another ratio that I was looking at starting about 3 weeks ago is just how heavy this year's harvest so far has been from the northern growing districts. And again, for those of you that might be new to the industry, we split the California industry between north and south, with Los Angeles kind of being the dividing line. So when we talk about the south, generally we're talking about southern growing districts of Escondido, Fallbrook, Temecula. And when we're talking about the north, we're talking about the northern growing districts of Ventura County, Santa Barbara, and San Luis Obispo County. All of my life, or for most of my life, the South was 60 to 65% of the volume. Starting about 10 or 15 years ago, that started to change as we had a lot of new avocado developments go in eastern Ventura County, where a lot of the oranges were removed, and we saw some acreage attrition in the South after the fires and the increase in water rates. So about 10 years ago, it got to be more 50-50. And over the last 5 years, maybe closer to 60% coming out of the North. But the harvest this year has been remarkable. It was about 3 weeks ago, it was a 7-to-1 ratio of fruit coming in being from the northern districts. So 85% of the fruit was coming from the north from November through the 1st of March, and only 15% of the fruit coming from the south. And I think that's really a strong indicator of just really the struggle that's been going on in getting size. Over the last 3 to 4 weeks, that ratio has improved. Now it's about 4 or 4.5 to 1. So the South has started picking now, but again, I think this is really indicative of the struggle to get size, the damage done by the heat wave, and the damage done by the really lack of rainfall that we got over this winter time. Since we last got together, the good news is that the market is improved starting right after the Super Bowl. The price for avocados came up pretty remarkably, with the price basically doubling from the 1st of February to the 10th of March. So we had a nice 4 or 5 week run where the price went from the low $20 per case to the low $40 per case. And that really made all the difference in the world. At that low $20 per case, it makes no sense for California to get started. At today's pricing, it's much more attractive. And so that makes it all the more, that makes this difference in the north-south ratio all the more remarkable, because and really just how much lack of size there is still in the South. Because of this pricing, if you had 60s or 48s, it would make all the sense in the world to get in. If you still are peaking on 70s in your groves, it makes all the sense in the world to continue to wait in order to try and get more size. Size is very important. As you can see, the couple of ounces make a world of difference in the value of the fruit. What drove this market rise? It was I think it was driven. It was, first of all, it was wholly demand driven. So there was no gaps in supply whatsoever. Mexico continued to ship its 1,300 loads per week. It's shipping at the last 6 weeks. It's been shipping at about 20% more than last year. California went from, virtually zero to 6 or 7 million pounds per week. So this is the increase in demand has actually come with an increase in supply. So it's been wholly demand driven. And that was probably 70%. I would attribute that to the United States economy getting back on track, the vaccines coming out, getting distributed. Many of the states have lifted their sanctions on public venues and eating out, and we're seeing an increase in food service demand and that kind of stuff. So I would attribute 70% of it to just a natural, it feels like the US economy as is related to avocado consumption, is kind of coming out of a year-long hibernation, and we saw that doubling in price. About 30% of that I would attribute to fear. What do I mean by that? Mexico had two holidays in March. The first was on March 15th, the celebration of Benito Juarez's birthday. And the second one is this week, starting tomorrow with Holy Week observations as we head into Easter this Sunday. And so we all knew that we would lose 1 day of harvest on March 15th, and we would lose 3 days of harvest this week. So a lot of the people at that last week of February, first week of March, said yes to the pricing because nobody wanted to gap in supply. Now that we've gotten further along, we've seen that there was no gap in supply. So Mexico was able to increase its harvest the week before Benito Juarez, so that the same exact number of trucks crossed on Benito Juarez Day, despite the 1 day harvesting holiday. And the same thing now for Semana Santa. They were able to increase the harvest to such an extent last week that we're actually now seeing the highest inventories that we have for quite a while. We since the Super Bowl, we hit the 70 million pound mark on inventories Monday, and came up again to about 71 million pounds yesterday. If we have a good shipping and sales the next 3 days, we should be able to open up Monday in pretty good shape, because Mexico is taking off. There will be zero harvest in Mexico Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. And of course, whatever we start harvesting on Monday does not cross then until Thursday, because of the time that it takes to get the fruit from the tree to the border. So hopefully if everything works out like it should, we should be able to start next week clean. Otherwise, this 70 million pound inventory is causing some weakness in the Mexican field pricing that we've seen this week. California is a little bit protected from that so far. The customers that are buying California and paying the premium for California are doing so for a number of reasons, looking at freshness, looking at buying local, looking at shelf life, because what right now the Mexican fruit does not have very good shelf life. And so California so far has been protected from this. If we open up on Monday in the mid 50 million pound inventory range, we'll be able to continue. If the shipments over the weekend are weaker than that, and we're still in the mid 60 million pound range, we could see by the middle of next week some negative effects on that California pricing. But right now, I'm optimistic that we'll be able to avoid that. What's going on in Mexico? They continue to be close to 90% of the avocado sold in the United States, despite California getting started. They've got a very short shelf life right now, so you've got to really treat that fruit like a hot potato, and that's we've been dealing with that kind of since January, which is remarkably early for Mexican fruit, and something that we know is going to not significantly improve as we get into May and June, which are the last 2 months of their crop season. So shelf life will continue to be an issue. There's some conflicting crop estimates coming out of Mexico. Some are predicting that they've been picking so heavy for so long that they could possibly run out of fruit in May and June. That is a little bit controversial. That's the official information coming out of APM. To combat that, though, there's um, arguments that, are we dealing with this advanced maturity? Is that because they're behind on the harvest and picking at groves that should have been harvested 6 or 7 weeks ago? There's 2 or 3 other reasons to support an argument that they will likely not run out of fruit in May and June. But what do we know for right now? We know for right now in April, this is the hottest month of the year in Michoacan before the May rain start. And they continue to harvest heavy, again, at a rate of about 20% more than the same weeks last year. And we'll cross, if there's a scarcity in May and June, we'll know more about that as we get, that should start manifesting itself around the 10th or 15th of April as we see how the 4th or Cinco de Mayo promotions, mostly food service, are carried out. Talking about Mexico, though, there could be a little bit of a window at the end of the season because they did have some frost. The frost did not seem to affect this year's harvest, but it did affect a little bit the flowering for next year. And so right now they're talking about that the Flor Loca, which they begin harvesting in July and August, is lighter than it was last year. The flowering was damaged by the cold weather, and there could be a little bit of a window in August. In my mind, that's pretty far away. With this year's small California crop, with the lack of rain that we got this year, I'm not anticipating that California is going to have a tremendous amount of fruit left to take advantage of a possible window at the end of August or going into September. Moving on to the competitive situation for this summer. The other big player that will be arriving at the end of May, 1st of June, is Peru. Peru is going to be having their first 1 billion pound crop this year, meaning that they're only the second country in the world to get to that threshold. The other one, of course, being Mexico. But this is a big deal for the Peruvians. Again, they tend to have a much shorter window than any other Hass growing country in which they can harvest the Hass. They don't seem to have the luxury of storing on tree like you can in a lot of the other Hass producing areas, be they California, Mexico, or Chile. They're projecting shipping about 220 or as much as 240 million pounds to the United States, which would be about a 25% increase versus last year. There's very little interest in shipping much earlier. That's partly due to dry matter and partly due to market conditions in this country versus market conditions in Europe, which currently has a little bit of a gap. The United States, when these prices rose to double during late February, early March, the United States actually had better pricing for avocados than Europe did. That is changing now, and Europe's expected to be caught up / passing the United States over the next probably 3 to 4 weeks. And then as Peru starts to hit the European arrivals pretty hard, that's expected to come down relatively quickly. Let's get back to talking about California. We're cooperating very, very closely with the California Avocado Commission. We've had several discussions with Jen DeLizer and her team. And they've got some exciting retail and food service promotions that they're doing. You're going to be able to see California avocado ads running on Hulu and YouTube as we continue to see the transition from traditional media to new media. The California Avocado Commission is staying at the vanguard of that. We're very, very supportive of all of the aid that they give the United States, California avocado industry. They really, really, really earn everything that um, they do for us, whether that's in promoting avocados, keeping us in the forefront of retail and food service customers for the California window, and advocating for us both in Sacramento and Washington, D.C., for whether it's for water issues or for labor issues or for pest issues. Is very, very important, the work that they do in supporting us both legislatively and promoting our avocados in the marketplace. So thank you very much to the California Avocado Commission for all of the work that they do. We're really excited to be talking about the gem avocados that we're going to be, this is about our 4th or 5th season rolling out the gems. We're going to be starting those next week on April 15th. So let me talk a little bit about what we've done to prepare the market for that. We've been sampling the fruit for several weeks, waiting for the right maturity. And we're noticing that in the different growing regions, the gem is maturing differently. So we had some from up in the San Joaquin Valley that had high oil content, but they still had some shrivel and some taste issues. Whereas here in Ventura County, it's been behaving a little bit differently. So there's still a lot to learn on the physiological behavior year to year of the gem avocado, but the samples that we've been collecting the last 3 weeks have been fantastic, improving on flavor. The shrivel at the stem end is gone. So we are now 100% confident that this fruit is improving and ready to go to market. And we are attacking the market on all cylinders of that. We have gotten mailings out to retail and food service customers of samples so that they can have that eating experience and see what the fruit looks like. We've done mailings out to bloggers so that they can start working on the social media networks, talking about how great this avocado is. We're doing something differently this year. We're doing bags, and that's going to allow certain retail customers to have multiple displays in their store. So this is a benefit for us in 2 ways. Originally we only had 1 PLU for the gem, and so that limited a lot of retail on how many displays that they could have of the gem. By adding the bags, it does 2 things. We saw a multiplier effect of bag sales during the COVID period, where people wanted to maybe touch less of the produce that they were buying and be able to pick up multiple pieces in one touch. And 2, it allows to have 2 SKUs in the store so that a single store can have multiple offerings. With that said, we're proud to say that Keith Blanchard is leading an industry-wide group to establish 2 more SKUs or PLU barcodes for the gem avocado, so that it can, like the Hass, you will be able to have 3, and so that they can have small fruit at 1 price, medium fruit at another price, and large avocados at a 3rd price in the same store. Sophia and her team have been working really, really hard on the marketing portion of this. They are finishing up the editing of some field videos that we've done, and some grower bios that we've been doing grower interviews. And we're especially proud of a interview that we're going to be that we're scheduling right now with Gray Martin, who, as many of you know, the gem avocado is named after the initials of Gray E. Martin, who worked for a number of years in the UC breeding program and and help to identify this as a promising new variety. And we're also doing field tours. One of the field tours we're particularly proud about is one that we did with our sales team back about 3 months ago to get them. We brought them up into the field to go out, and we did a really neat presentation contrasting kind of 20th century farming, where you had an old grove on seedling rootstocks of 40-foot tall trees, at 40 trees per acre, and looking at what one of those groves looked like, and then bringing them to another ranch where we see what I would refer to as 21st century avocado farming, which is a very, very different. It's higher density, it's on berms with mulching, with annual pruning, girdling, everything else. And to bring them up to contrast the old way that we used to do things to the new way, which is becoming more and more prevalent in avocado growing, just really gives everybody a story to share with the industry about, hey, this California avocado farming is changing, is becoming much more productive, and is competing in the 21st century marketplace. Part of what's helping us to do that is our cultural outreach that we do, both via the seminars. We did our last seminar about 2 weeks ago. Many of you were on that, and and then building on the seminars, we've got our agronomist Gerardo Aldunate scheduled to get here on April 12th to resume, after a 1-year hiatus, resume doing in-person grove consulting. So we're really excited that Gerardo's able to get back up here safely. So that kind of is brings me to the end of the thoughts that I had put together about the California avocado market, where we're at today at the end of March. Keith, I'd be happy to, I guess, work with you on any questions that might have come up during the presentation. Keith, are you able to read some of the questions that came up on the raised hands? I think you're on mute, Keith.
Give me a second. Let me try to unmute him.
Thank you. I think that was what I needed you to do, Sophia. So we did have a couple questions come through, Giovanni, that I was able to type some answers during your talk. And just to kind of recap a couple of them, Leah Boyd, who's the editor for the California Avocado Society newsline, asked about the ratio and size of the differentiation between the North and the South. And we've talked about the amount of bins increase more than the South, but there has been somewhat of fruit sizing as well. And I think that's what Leah was, her question was pointing towards. And I think that the size is catching up in the South, but I think with tree height and the small crop load was really causing less harvesting, growers waiting for size, knowing that the size pick option really wasn't very viable for them. And we talked about some of the 21st century farming, and there, we still have a lot of orchards in North and South, but that tree height in tall canopy really is difficult to size fruit more than, you can get a lot quicker size on a smaller tree. So I think a lot of it has to do with the crop load, lack of ability to size pick, and some tree height factors, as well as the irrigation costs and the drought effects. So that was one question. And then Zach was talking about getting gem prices out, and I think we'll be starting those. They should be on by Monday to be able to share with the gem growers market forecasting. I think that was most of the questions you have. With that, I don't see any other. Let me double check the Q&A function, and I think that's I think you covered everything, Giovanni.
Okay, well, it's 10:30 at, we got up and down in a half hour. I want to thank everybody for participating. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or to Keith's field team. We've got Giuseppe, Bailey, Mauricio, and Jose that do an outstanding job, as well as Lisa, on any of the food safety issues that you might have. And again, I would just encourage everybody with this small crop. Coordination is always very important with the harvest. So the better information and coordination that we're able to do from the field to the sales team, the better we're going to perform. So again, we meet every Tuesday, and we do 4-week forecasting by variety, whether that's organic, gems, Hass, lamb Hass. And so every bit of coordination that you can have to help us make those meetings and planning more impactful, the better we do. So thank you, everybody, for the communication and harvest coordination that your cooperation aids with. All right. Thank you, everybody.